Welcome, councillors. I declare the October meeting of council open. We are all present, so there's no apologies. We'll move to item 1.5, the minutes of the previous meeting, with confidential items for confirmation. They were council meetings held on the 15th of September and another special council meeting held on the 30th of September. Would someone like to move Councillor Miller and seconded Councillor Hearn? All those in favour? Carried. We'll now move to item 1.10 because we have no matters arising from the previous meeting. Petitions, deputations. 1.10 on page 5 is questions with or without notice, and we have a question there, 1.10.1 from Councillor Wee Smith regarding the Sporting Marketing Australia on page, and there's a recommendation there for council. Councillor Wee Smith. Speak.
What's going or something? What is yours?
Are they working with, even if the light's not on? Or...
Yeah.
Okay.
No, they're not. Okay, I'll just talk now. Just a quick question to follow up. So we've got a list of events there. What's the status of these? And yeah, we sort of haven't heard anything. There's a list of 8 events there. So.
Demara can speak to that one. Thank you. These are the events that have been put to us to potentially review. The only one at this point in time that we've had a site visit with the event owner is the event number 10 there, reference number 10, and that's the 3x3 basketball, which has a community participation element to it. So we looked at the Barossa Adventure Station, and only yesterday I got some feedback to say that that area is actually a little bit small for what they need, so we're looking at some other areas. So just because we've been offered the event doesn't mean that we need to accept them. We need to make sure that it's right for our community and our timing. So these are all very sport focused, I understand that at the moment, and we're continuing to talk to them about a range of different styles of events. And of course, coming out of COVID, a lot of them are interstate and national based events that will take some time. So we probably won't see any placements until next year.
Moved by Councillor Wee Smith, seconded by Councillor Johnston. All those in favour? Carried. The next item is questions with or without notice, and that's item 1.10.2, Councillor Schilling on the Nuriutta pool, page 7. There's a recommendation there. Councillor Schilling.
Working either. Yes, thank you to the council staff for responding to my questions. Being a newer councillor, I just really wanted to get an understanding of how we got to the point where we are, having been on the working group since it started, the Nuriutta working group. I'd seen that perspective, but I wanted to get a good understanding of how we got to this point from the council perspective. I was concerned after the last meeting of the direction we took, and concerned that our decisions aren't based on facts and figures, and that concerned me. The community feel that the facility has been purposely allowed to deteriorate. So thank you to the staff, and I look forward to the new proposal coming at the November workshop. And I'll move the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schilling. Moved by Councillor Schilling, the recommendation as written, and seconded by Councillor Angus. All those in favour? Carried. The next item is on page 9, Mayor's report. Someone would like to move the recommendation? Councillor Hearn, and seconded Councillor Boothby. Questions? No, I'll put the motion. Carried. Oh, sorry, put the motion. I need to see a few more hands. Carried, thank you. Next item, consensus agenda. Move the consensus agenda, moved by Councillor Johnston and seconded by Councillor Barrett. All those in favour of the consensus agenda be adopted? Carried. We'll now move to the debate agenda, the Chief Executive Officer's report, 7.2.1.1, the Australia Day event, COVID-19 considerations on page 92.
Move the recommendation, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor De Vries and seconded by Councillor Boothby. Any questions? Would you like to speak to the?
Yeah, I'll just have to talk loud. My thing's not working either. Look, just as really for the benefit of those who might be listening in, that what we're actually voting on here is that, unfortunately, with the COVID situation, the citizenship ceremony on Australia Day is going to have to be limited. So we're going with a pretty slimmed down version where basically we proceed with the citizenship ceremony only and really limit to the award recipients, and then at some later date to be determined we will then do the full celebration. That's the purpose of what we're doing right now.
Councillor Johnston.
And just a question, does this option give us the best opportunity to respond if we've got to go into a sort of a pandemic situation? Essentially something happening with borders opening up and then get the reinfection, please.
CEO.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We can obviously only work on the information we currently got at the time. If we're locked down again, it's actually quite simple. We just stop. This is a managed event.
Any further questions? Is the seconder wish to speak? No. Thank you. Put the recommendation. All those in favour? Carried. Next item is on page 101, the Ombudsman's report, land exchange with Chateau Tanunda, 7.2.1.2. Any questions?
Move the recommendation.
Moved Councillor Boothby and seconded Councillor Johnston. No further questions, comments? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Finance report on page 119 is 7.2.2.1, the monthly finance report.
Move the recommendation, Your Worship.
Moved Councillor De Vries, seconded Councillor Boothby. There's no questions. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Report on page 122 to do with the rate hardship policy, COVID-19, general rate remission applicable to tenants.
Move the recommendation, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor De Vries and seconded by Councillor Hearn. No question? Yes, Councillor Johnston.
So this wording, are there any potentially unforeseen consequences of broadening that to double counting and discounting? Curious to know. I'm sure that people thought about this long and hard. I just want to make sure that's the right wording.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Councillor Johnson. No, not at all, because in fact, the current people that are in that circumstance aren't eligible or anything because the head tenant is not qualified. So this just slightly expands those that are in financial difficulty because of the rental agreements and obviously COVID.
Happy to give a quick explanation.
Yes, thank you.
Basically, the deal, this is again for the benefit of people listening in or in the gallery. When we put out the rate hardship policy, it applies to people who actually pay rates, but there are people within the community who actually are paying rates, but they're not actually the rate payers. They're paying rates to a landlord who is then effectively passing them on to us. And because the landlord is well-heeled, dare I say it, then they don't qualify, but the person who's actually subject to paying these rates isn't. So this is a way in which we can support them as well. So it's just a way of broadening the wording so that the people who actually have to pay the rates are the people being assessed.
Is there a seconder wish to speak? Thank you. All those in favour of the recommendation, carried. Next item is on page 132, the ICT financial arrangements with the annual budget and business plan.
With the recommendation.
Moved Councillor Johnston, seconded Councillor Miller. Wish to speak to the motion, Councillor Miller. Any questions? All those in favour? Carried. Page 134, 7.3.3.1, the tourism recovery, Barossa sub-regions and township project, partnership with Tourism Barossa. Any questions that anybody has first up? Question?
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
That exit report.
Here you go.
Oh, that's what, no, I'll explain that.
Before you make a comment, I'll get a mover in a second first. Moved Councillor Wee Smith and seconded Councillor De Vries. Do you like to speak to the motion, Councillor?
Sorry. I would, but I've also got a question, so would you like me to speak first and then ask the question?
Do the question.
Just a quick question. I mean, obviously, I think this is a fantastic project and it's good to see this initiative. I just wondered if any consideration has been given to, obviously, there's the sub-regions, etc. there. Some of them are quite niche as opposed to some of the large areas there which may require a bit more support. Has any consideration been given?
Thanks for using it. The structure of the program is really to work with all individual niche and larger groups to come up with something that's complementary to Brand Australia and selling their unique propositions into the market. So yes, it's going to have to be fluid, flexible, and we'll work with those groups. Mrs. Seabrook's here, so I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, what you said about, and I think, sorry, I'm supposed to be somewhere else. I think we'll just work with each of the groups and just talk with them and discuss what they want. The idea is to have a flexible sort of template that bring through individual personalities and
Councillor Johnson had a question.
Well, I'm a seconder. Can I speak to it?
I'll just take the question first and then I'll get the mover and seconder to speak then. Yep.
So it's a kind of a, it's a, not so much a question but a statement. I'd just like to make sure that if staff already haven't thought of this, to urge them to consult with Barossa Grape and Wine earlier rather than later, because sub-region under the GI legislation has a very specific meaning, so it might be good to clear the air over how that's used. Thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I can assure you we're talking to BGWA daily.
Mover of the motion, do you wish to speak, and then the seconder, and then Councillor Barrett had a comment to make.
Yeah, as I said, I think this is a fantastic initiative, especially I think post-COVID, it's important for us to be reaching out to these sub-regions who quite often do miss out on the marketing support that probably Valley Floor gets. So I really do commend staff for taking this initiative and look forward to seeing the outcome.
Councillor De Vries, seconder.
Thanks, Your Worship. Yeah, elephant in the room. The Barossa doesn't all exist within Barossa Council, even though this is a Barossa Council funding initiative. There are sub-regions that are not included in this list, which obviously we won't be funding, like Western Ridge. I'm assuming that Councillor Boothby, as our rep, that Light will be contributing to some extent with this. I would hope so. That being said, even if there are overhang areas which sort of fall into sub-regions which are predominantly in the Barossa Council area, but also part of Light. I'm thinking of, for example, the Para Road area is clearly part of Tanumba. David Fran's Wines, I believe, would probably fall into that category rather than Western Ridge, which it rather depends on where you draw these boundaries. I would hate to see someone like David's winery not included because it's technically across the river. In fact, technically so is Peter Lehman's. So the boundary, I think we all know, doesn't necessarily reflect, necessary spheres of influence. So all I would say is that I would like to think that the funding doesn't just stop at the river, that if there are areas where it has to sort of slip over the river because they're part of what is predominantly a sub-region, which is predominantly in the Barossa Council area, that we include them as well. And I see Joe nodding, so great, thank you.
CEO.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Absolutely, your staff will take a pragmatic approach to achieving the best outcome for the Barossa.
Wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't mention it.
It is, look, and I'll add to that in that we are trying to do some work through the RDA board and the industry group on a broader process as well for the whole of the RDA Barossa area. We're trying.
Councillor Barrett.
Just like Councillor De Vries, rather parochial, and it's an excellent report in relation to tourism. And the comment I make is, as new maps are printed, if we could just sneak a little bit further south, and I say that in relation to Cromer, we've allocated just short of $30,000 to Cromer, the metropolis down there, to the old school site, and also in light of the Adelaide Hills Council being granted $2.6 million to extend the Amy Gillett Bikeway from Mount Torrens to Birdwood. It won't be that long until it does actually reach up as far as Mount Pleasant, and it'd be very good if it could just be flagged, the map, just sneak a little bit further south. So that was my only comment, and it's an excellent report. Thank you.
No further comment. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Next item is on page 145. This is the Manager of Community and Culture, Barossa Youth Leadership Program.
I'd like to move the recommendation, please.
Moved by Councillor Troop, seconded by Councillor Schilling. You wish to speak to the motion, Councillor Troop, I guess.
As you probably know, I'm pretty passionate about this. I've found that there's great energy in the youth of the actual region. And also, I think it really does reflect our new community plan once it goes through consultation. And I think leadership is the way to go in our from a council point of view. I think that it's evolving into a leadership model, which I think is wonderful. And I think there's already plenty of support from schools that I've seen personally. And I would love to see us as elected members actually interact with the youth on a more regular basis, on the leaders on a more regular basis, only because it actually, the relational part of our youth actually having that relationship with our youth actually empowers them and gives them a voice. So I'd encourage every one of us who is actually involved, like in this room, actually start relationship with these kids. And I really think this is a great program that we can facilitate that relationship, as well as encourage the leaders of the future. Potential to be in this room in 20 years, and that is exciting, or even 10 years. How about that, having a 21-year-old in here? So I just really like to recommend this. It's excellent.
Councillor Schilling?
Yes, I just wanted to ask about whilst there's only 6 people currently on the act, is there something in place to try and re-engage those people back through the voluntary system into some other way, that we don't lose them, or just say, sorry, there's no more yak, so see you later? Is there another way of re-engaging them, please?
Just you come forward so I can hear you a little bit better. Thank you.
Yeah, so obviously all of the YAC members are allowed to apply for the youth leadership, and we'll be encouraging that anyway. Obviously, we have a whole range of volunteering options that they can trial, not just within council, but obviously throughout the valley. So Brooke actually works in the volunteering resource centre as well as in the youth leadership, so she'll be having a conversation with them about that. I'm hoping that some of them are actually going to apply for the leadership program.
Councillor Johnston?
Just wondering whether the existing delivery of some of the YAC programs will be delivered by this group, like the cinema events and so forth.
I'll let Brooke answer that.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. We will still be delivering a Youth Week event. Currently, we deliver a nightscape event during Youth Week, as well as the Safe Schoolies bus. So those programs will still be going ahead, and I will encourage the new youth leadership program young leaders to organise that, as well as the possibility for outdoor movie nights. That's still in discussion.
Any further questions? All those in favour of the recommendation? Carried. Next item is on page 156, 7.4.1.1, regional road closure for the 2020 Barossa Triathlon event. Any questions?
No, I'll move the recommendation.
Moved Councillor Schilling and seconded Councillor Johnston. Do you wish to speak to the motion, Councillor? No. Any further comments? All those in favour? Carried. Page 161. The item is the Bridge Renewal Program, round 5. Congratulations to Mr. Elding and his team for that successful application.
I'll move that.
Moved Councillor Haydock and seconded Councillor Hearn. If you wish to speak to the motion, Councillor.
I think the bridge in question, if people haven't seen it, is very old and was built to take small vehicles. Now we're looking at road trains, which are applicable to this area for extensive business purposes. You go up there and have a look at 2 trucks coming in either directions. They haven't got much room between them, and it's a very, very high risk as it sits there at the moment. So I fully support that motion that the bridge needs to be upgraded.
Yeah, this has been a pet of mine for some time, as Mr. Elding would know, and it's just fabulous that it's going to proceed at long last. I think the bridge strength was certainly okay, but it just needed to be widened. Having driven over the Lindock Bridge every day, I know exactly what it's like, Councillor. So well done to the team.
All those in favour? Carried. Page 165, is to do with the appointment of the Building Fire Safety Committee, 7.5.1.1, 1.5. Any questions on that? Not, would someone like to move? Councillor Boothby and seconded Councillor Miller. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor? All those in favour? Carried. 169, page 169. The nomination sought for the Native Vegetation Council. There's two recommendations. There's a recommendation A, if someone wishes to, an elected member or a staff member to be nominated by this council, or there's recommendation B, that the council receives a report and notes its content and does not provide a nomination on this occasion. Any questions?
Move Councillor Hearn be appointed. No, I move B.
It's not my forte.
Moved by Councillor De Vries, recommendation B, that we do not provide a nomination at this occasion.
And I'll second that.
And seconded Councillor Hearn. Either one of you wish to speak to the motion? I think it's pretty clear cut.
Not unless Councillor Hearn wants to change his mind.
All those in favour? Carry. Page 176. 176 is the Barossa Bush Gardens Urban Design Framework 2020, 176. Any questions?
I'll move the recommendation.
Moved by Councillor Schilling, second by Councillor Troop. Councillor Schilling, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, just well done to Mr Mavronack on the work that he's done pulling this framework together and submitting this. It's excellent.
Councillor Troop.
I'd just like to, I was in the Bush Gardens a few days ago in the Mental Health Day that we had, and such a great facility, and any improvement could only increase tourism and community engagement. So I think this is great. Good work.
Any further comment? All those in favour of carried. Page 197.
Move that Councillor Hearn be appointed to the Dog and Cat Board.
Second.
I think you're jesting again.
I am indeed.
I'd like to move motion B.
There is two,
Move B.
recommendation moved by Councillor Hearn, that is that we note and we do not provide a nomination, and seconded by Councillor De Vries for recommendation B. All those in favour? Carried.
I can't run fast enough.
Page 204.
Move the recommendation.
Moved Councillor Wee Smith. This is to do with the outdoor dining and commercial use of footpaths and fees. Councillor De Vries, seconded or?
Yeah, I am. I'm just curious, are we going with option 1 or option 2 or both? Because I'd like to see both.
Because there is a saving there.
Oh, you mean from the chart down below? There's option 1 and option 2. I don't think that's spelled out.
Well, it's sort of saying option 2 in the recommendations. So Councillor Wee Smith is willing.
Oh, yeah. Option 1.
I'd like to see both options. I'd like to, because I'll talk to it, but I won't.
Okay, well, I've got a mover from Councillor Wee Smith. Would someone like to second?
I've seconded, but if it can be.
I've misread it. I was after option 1. Thanks for option 2 in the recommendation.
So just to be clear, we're looking at option one, which is the, okay. So option one, would you like to speak to it then?
Oh, sorry, just as a point of, if that's what Councillor West-Smith wants to go with, I don't want to second that because I'll then move an amendment. So in that
I'll
case,
second it.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Johnson. Councillor Wee-Smith.
Yeah, to be brief, I think, again, with a lot of the initiatives we're doing, it's really important post-COVID to support our local businesses as much as possible. I think it's really important that we do reduce fees for this sort of service. Obviously, the tourism implications, I don't see it as a revenue-raising exercise for council. Obviously, we need to have some sort of regulation in place, but the easier we can make it for our traders, I think the better for the region as a whole.
Councillor Johnson.
I support Councillor Wee-Smith's comments and just trying to understand. Administratively, it would be easier with option one because everybody knows where you are in an annual cycle, whereas you'll have some on 2 years and some in June. So I think I support the idea that option one is the favourite option. Thank you.
I'd like to move an amendment if
Yes, Councillor De Vries.
Okay, my thing is working, so I'll just talk about. I'd like to move the motion, but with the recommendation as it's currently written, but with option 1 and 2 rather than just option 2, and I'll now explain the difference. Option 1, basically, I completely agree with Councillor West-Smith and Councillor Johnson with their view that this is a way that we can reduce the cost of.
I'll just get a second and thanks.
Oh, okay.
Someone like to second the amendment? Councillor Hearn. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Hearn. Make sure you get on the dog and cat board next year, mate. Okay, so the reason why I'd like to do this is because option 1 is not exactly half of what we currently are offering people. It is maybe about 40%, maybe 60% of the current cost. So what we're doing is reducing the cost of tables and chairs and an annual fee for setting up outside. And as Your Worship has spoken about in the past, this is to encourage more businesses to actually allow for alfresco dining, particularly with COVID. I think this is important for public health as well, as it gets more people outside, which is all the health people have been telling us is good, keeps the disease more at bay. So option 1 is a good option. I'm not disputing that at all, but it doesn't go as far as option 2 does, which is basically option 2 takes what we are currently charging people, but instead of applying it on an annual basis, it's applying it on a biannual basis. In other words, it's a half the cost. It also means but the reason I'd like to see both option 1 and option 2 is option 2 is giving them a greater saving, and I think that is to their benefit. But option 1 is allowing for the fact that you aren't required to go for a full 2-year chunk in one go. So for those people who are established, who are doing it at the moment, if we allow them the option to go to option 2, they're basically getting half of what they're currently getting, which was the original recommendation. And I thought that is the better option in terms of supporting the community, because we're actually giving them a greater support. Option 1 now, though, also then allows for those people who maybe don't want to dip their foot completely in the water of 2 years, a biannual option, at least allows them to go to 1 year only. It's not as big a saving, but still a better saving than what they've currently got. My assumption is that most people will go for the option 2 option once they do it. And in terms of administrating, I see no reason why we couldn't do the paperwork every 2 years and collect the money on an annual basis. That could be the way to get around that. And in fact, that would actually be less administration less for the red tape for the people in the community, because they're only having to deal with this every 2 years rather than every year. So I think on balance, option 2 is my favourite option, but I would still like to have option 1 in the mix for those who don't actually want to go full into a 2-year choice. So I hope everybody will accept that amendment.
Councillor Hearn, do you wish to speak?
Thanks, Mayor. I agree wholeheartedly. Couldn't have said it better, Councillor De Vries. But I would like to see them give an option, because there'd certainly be people that would like option 2. And if we can combine the two, I think that we should let them make up the decision rather than us here today.
That's the point of it.
Councillor Miller.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm ambivalent to both, so I'm not concerned as far as that is concerned. There is a statement made in the report. It's made on page 208. One last sentence. Should council resolve to reduce fees to encourage greater use of public footpaths by businesses, a sterner approach to non-compliance should also be implemented. Now, I would regularly get people from businesses in Tanunda coming in and complaining to me, how come I'm forced to do it with my tables, my chairs, my wares, and the guy down the road is not. I just think it should be whatever the rule is, whatever the policy is, it should be adhered to. And as I said, when it comes to the fees, I'm ambivalent to it, so either way I don't mind. But that is a very valid point for the officers concerned, that they have the direction to police and enforce the footpaths. People can't walk down some of those parts of paths on a Sunday or a Saturday afternoon in particular. Last week was terrible because of people with goods and services all on both sides of the footpath. And then somebody come along with a pram and suddenly nobody can get through. So I just think that we've got to give the officers the opportunity to actually police this properly. But yes, as far as the rest of it's concerned, I'm quite comfortable with either.
Councillor Havey.
I'm still in favour of option one. I could go to two, but option one favours me. I think at this stage we should be keeping monies down to the minimum as we can, bearing in mind we've got COVID. Businesses trying to get back on some stableness. We need to encourage tourism. And I think by increasing the fees even for the 12 months is a hardship one. We're not here to make money. Therefore, I think option one is my choice. In relation to what Councillor Miller said, I fully agree. Sometimes, especially in Tanunda, busy days, you get the chairs and tables out there. And I know that some of them have increased their numbers. I don't know whether that's been done legally or not, but they have increased their numbers of tables and chairs. So I think that needs to be policed, as the saying goes, in due course. Thank you.
Point of clarification, Your Worship. I'm not proposing increasing fees at all. Quite the opposite. I want to halve them.
That's why I'm going for option one.
But option two halves them. Halves the fees.
I'll let
It's the same fee, but over a 2-year period rather than over a 1-year period. So it's half as much.
Councillor Dries, I'll let you close the.
No, I can't because this is an amendment. I can't close the amendment.
Oh, okay, sorry.
But I just want point clarification because I think that was the opposite of what I'm proposing.
Fair enough. Councillor Troop.
Just a clarification, display of goods, street trader, what does that actually mean? Does that mean people who have got their goods on either side under their own veranda? A lot of places have their goods on their veranda. Can someone explain to me what that does mean?
Through you, Mayor. Essentially, the difference between outdoor dining is obvious. Goods on footpath is a clothes rack or wares out on the footpath. So essentially, the fee structure captures that as well. So it's a little bit difficult to charge, or obviously quite difficult to charge the per table for general arrangement. So it's a set fee for that.
Oh, so that's a set. Sorry, does that mean that they just pay 100, so option one, they'll just pay 150 with or without tables? Yeah, so anyone who has it on the footpath, like a rack of clothes or baskets or whatever, they'll just pay 150. And that doesn't include what people have on their own verandas. Like some people have veranda displays, if you know what I mean. So where does that fit?
Through you, Mayor, this only applies out into the public land, onto the footpath. If they've got some private land back off of the footpath, they're free to do as whatever they like, essentially.
Okay. So long as it complies with their development.
Correct, and so and all those important things. This only applies to the public land now.
Thank you.
Councillor Johnston.
So, two things. I'd just like to make sure we know what we're voting on in which order. And the second point I'd like to ask is, could the chief executive to tell us what the administrative implications might be of trying to run two licensing systems at once, one annual and one biannual. Thank you.
CEO.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We're dealing with the amendment at the moment, which is option 1 and 2. Administratively, I'll defer to Mr. Maverick. I don't know how part I know the basics.
Through the Mayor, basically option 2 was presented primarily to reduce some administrative burden for our staff. Obviously, dealing on a biannual basis is much more effective for our resources.
And I'm not disagreeing with that point, but ultimately we're here to serve the community, so I think that is actually an irrelevant factor.
Just a further question to Councillor Johnston. So if we're looking at combining the two options, having option 1 and 2, what is that administrative impact? Is that going to increase? Is it going to keep it sort of at the same level now? From an administrative perspective, is that going to be easier or harder?
Having not really thought too closely about that, combining the two options, but I think Jamie's team would be, be pretty much on par to what's currently in place. Agreed.
Any further questions? If not, I'll put the amendment, which is option 1 and 2 being combined. All those in favour of option? Those against? The amendment is carried. That now becomes the motion. All those in favour? Carried.
Unanimously.
Thank you. Members, that concludes our general part of the meeting. We're now moving to our confidential agenda, which is the Santos tour down under and a tender consideration for the caravan park management services. So would someone like to...
I move we go into confidence meeting.
Moved by Councillor Hag and seconded by Councillor Johnston. Just wait until we stop the recording. Yes, thank you.
Been doing it for a while, Mr Mayor.
On the motion,
Yes, please.
so we move back into confidence.
Thank you, just got to make it.
And seconded by councillor Troop. All those in favour?
I actually called you.
We move into confidence for item tender caravan park management services on 211, and that has been carried. We move into confidence. Thank you, members. We've now dealt with those two items that we had in confidence. So with that, there is no further business for the October meeting. So our next meeting is scheduled for the 17th of November 2020. So with that, I'll officially close the October meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, mate.